Well, hello everybody. Welcome to week 6 of Advanced Programming with Java here at Portland State. Um, this is we're getting on towards the end of the course. We've got this week, we've got next week, and then the final exam. So not a lot of time left. That's okay. There's not a lot of content left, but there's a lot to talk about and a lot to learn. I want to start out with Prime Minister's questions, and we can talk about the things that we want to talk about, especially Project 4. So I hope you all saw on Slack that I've extended the Project 4 deadline until Friday because I realized that we need to get started with Android, and I anyway had some problems getting set up, and in office hours, it sounds like some of you also did also, but had different problems than I did, unfortunately. So we'll need to figure that out. So I think here's what I'd like to do tonight. I'd like to have some Prime Minister's questions, and then I want to focus on some Android stuff, and I guess what we'll need to figure out is whether we should spend some time here in class sort of helping each other out, get everything configured so that we can at least run an Android application, and then maybe after that spend some time exploring the application together, or maybe I do the exploration and then afterwards we break into smaller groups to figure out environmental issues and stuff like that. I'm really not sure. But also tonight is the opportunity for our second mob programming experience. And so for anybody who didn't participate last week in mob programming or would like to participate again, we'll have an opportunity to do that tonight. So I think compared to previous weeks, it'll be a little bit more unstructured tonight because I want to make sure that everybody gets their needs met. What I'd hope that we can all come away with tonight is our questions about Project 4 answered, our question about Project 5 answered, having everybody in a place where they can run Android Studio and deploy an Android application into an emulator, and then make sure that everybody has had a chance to experience the mob programming. So let's start off with Prime Minister's questions, though, and let's start off with talking about Project 4. So there's been lots of good discussion on Slack. I've been getting great questions there. Some good questions during office hours. What other questions do people have, though, about Project 4 and Project 4 functionality? Anything on Project 4?
I got a question about Project 4.
Yeah.
I was working on some final tests for my submission, and then I realized what would happen if I tried to pass too many parameters to the REST API URL. Like I pass in owner, start, and end. Then I pass in some extraneous argument, like should my code ignore it or should it just send an error message?
That's a good question. I think from what I've seen is that URLs in general will ignore query parameters that they don't understand. It just sort of, I think this probably comes back to the early days of the web where people were just sort of like making stuff up. But really the behavior is unspecified. And so then if you want to throw an error, that's okay. If you want to ignore it, that's okay too. It's not a scenario I'm going to test.
Okay, I chose to ignore it for now.
I think that's fine.
Awesome.
Okay. So Project 5. I'm sure there are probably a lot of environmental questions. I want to walk through the assignment first, I think, and have that be an introduction, and then let's figure out where we go from there. Andrew, sorry, did you have a question?
Sort of, yeah. It wasn't about Project 4, but one thing that just occurred to me since I forget who it was, but the guy who just asked the question about command line input and stuff like that. It reminded me the grade I got for Project 3 gave a deduction for, I think it was like missing date or something like that, but it actually had an exception that I designed specifically for that came up in the testing. I thought even though I haven't looked that up right now, since it literally just occurred to me again, I thought I would ask if it's all right to send an email detailing why I think there's sort of a discrepancy there, and hopefully.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to follow up on that. Just to be clear, though, the question was about the URL parameters. Is that correctly?
No, because this is a project 3's grade.
Okay,
so it doesn't
yeah.
have anything to do with URLs.
Okay, good. Okay, so it's just to remind you of the question. Okay, yeah. So please send me an email, and yeah, we can work it out.
Okay. Yeah, and I might just be misunderstanding, I guess, what the situation is.
Yeah, and there were test cases in at least projects 1 and 2 where you had extra parameters, extra arguments, and stuff.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yep. Okay. Any questions on project 4 or anything other than project 5? Final exams coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about it next week, though. That's when we'll do that. Okay. Project 5. Okay, so we've been, actually I've got it right here. All this term, we've been building up an appointment book application. Oh, sorry, just another question came in along that same thought. I just told if there were extra parameters or not enough well projects, it's okay. Should the error be more exact about what specifically is missing? The more exact, the better. Your project's probably already been graded. I don't think in project 4 and certainly not project 5, I'm not going to bother with extra parameters anymore. We tested that as part of the first 3 projects. So probably not anything to worry about. But again, if you have a question about your the feedback you received from the grader, please feel free to reach out to them or to involve me in the conversation. Also, make sure to get things clarified. And as I discovered when I sent everybody their grades, yes, we've been known to miss things and make mistakes in the work and supporting everybody. So thanks for bringing that up, though. Okay. Project 5. So this is the final phase of our project. And we've taken our project all the way from you wrote a couple classes and you parsed the command line, to you stored them in a file, to you pretty printed your appointments, you had a REST service that served up your appointments, and finally, in the final project, you write an Android application, a small device application that manages appointments in an appointment book. And so then this gives you an opportunity to take your code beyond a command line interface, beyond a REST interface, to something that's visual, something that's interactive. And it's really a different kind of development than you've been doing so far, and one that I hope gives you some experience writing user interfaces and understanding how that style of programming is similar and different from the kind of programming that you've done to date in this course and perhaps in your career as a software developer. So what you'll be doing in this project is writing an application, an Android application, that has all the functionality of the previous assignments. So an application that can create an appointment book, can enter appointments, can have some version of pretty printing, and for searching appointments. So basically anything that you could do sort of appointment book wise in the previous projects, you can now do in the Android project. So that's broadly speaking. And part of the goal here is to give you an opportunity to explore all of this. So there really aren't a lot of constraints on the project. And so unlike with the command line arguments, that there's a right and wrong in terms of the names of arguments and the order of things like that. You have a lot more freedom in this project to design an application that you think makes sense. So, but some other expectations, they do have the entry point, which is sort of the first screen in the application. There should be a way to get some help. So a help menu or help button or something like that gives you the README. So whatever the sort of the Android application equivalent of the README is, it tells you all about it. Another important thing that I wanted to call out is that error handling, just like it did in your command line, it matters a lot here. So if there's an error, the application shouldn't crash, it shouldn't get all messed up or anything like that. Make sure to handle reasonable errors by popping up a dialog box, a toast, a little thing saying that, hey, there was a problem here. for things like dialogues and toasts, these little those are meant to convey small pieces of information, like, oh hey, this date's malformed. Don't do anything like print out the entire contents of your appointment book in a dialogue. It just looks really ugly. And so then, please use other widgets. Please use other tools in the Android toolbox to convey that kind of thing. And again, I encourage you to use your imagination and creativity when designing your user interface, although you still want it to look like something that is familiar enough and approachable enough to, to interact. So this is not the time to experiment with a brand new style of user interface where all the text is in a circle and everything is a wheel. Right? Remember, I'm using it. I've got like 60 of them to grade. So, please, try to make something that looks like the kind of application that you expect. The Android project, as we'll see later tonight, and as you get an opportunity to explore more of it, it includes a lot of files that aren't Java, right? There are icon files, there are configuration files, XML for describing the widgets and everything like that. And so then I have a different submit tool. However, all of the files can be stored in GitHub, just like you stored your files for the first 4 projects. So I recommend that you do that. As always, you'll submit the source code from the CS department's Linux machines. It knows what should and should not be submitted. And so then, you can do the same sort of thing that you did before, where you just put everything in the source directory into your submission. Now, as I think some of you have already seen, as we'll all see tonight, Android requires a lot of additional build tools, and in order to run the emulator, you need to have a lot of software installed, and that software is not available on the CS department's Linux machines. You're interacting with an emulator that looks like a phone, trying to do that over over an X session or something like that would just be unbearable. And so then all you're doing on the CS department machines is submitting from there. There's no way to really build or validate your code from there, and that's okay. Andrew, you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question about, I'm curious if it's possible for us to actually connect and use our own actual Android phones.
You can if you like. You can just, my understanding is that, let's see here, it's another deployment target. Not part of the assignment, and maybe something you want to see if the assignment is done, or maybe after the term, right, is over. So, I don't want anybody, spending hours, trying to get their application on their phone or bricking their phone by mistake or whatever because of this. Make sure that you're using your time wisely. But yes, I believe that's possible to create your Android application and then deploy it to your phone. You plug it in the computer, I think.
Yeah, I know that there's a USB debugging mode and stuff like that. So theoretically, just using a USB cord, maybe it could deploy directly.
That's my understanding.
The other thing I had was something I posted in the comments, which was I was wondering about using about making GUI or GUI interfaces in Windows or Linux or Unix or anything like that. Then I realized I think is perhaps one reason we're doing Android development for UIs, because is that like basically we don't have to worry about incompatibilities with people using a Mac or Linux or Windows. Instead, it's a hard base that we all emulate, so we don't have to worry about differences in code and stuff for that kind of thing.
That's one reason. The other reason is the following. Since the beginning of this course, the final project has always been some sort of graphical user interface. And there are libraries that come with Java, part of the JDK, that give you platform independent widgets. There's an old one called AWT, the Abstract Windowing Toolkit. There is Swing, which is still pretty old at this point, but next generation. And there's other stuff that follows on from that. And for a number of years, I used that in the course, and it was neat. And it lets you experience the same thing. You're writing Java programs that handle that implement user interfaces. I chose Android because it seemed contemporary. Because it seemed like it's like it was way more interesting than, hey, here's a 20-year-old Java API for writing. The lessons are the same. Because actually, Swing and AWT have been very influential in terms of how frameworks have been have been implemented. UI frameworks have been implemented. But now they're kind of old. I wanted to offer something that seemed a little bit more modern, and it used to be easier to get started. I'm sorry, people are having so many problems. But that's why I chose Android, because it seemed relevant and hopefully more compelling and more engaging than just like, okay, I'm writing an application that runs here on my own machine.
All right, thank you.
See some other questions. Oh, where is the project5.sh? It doesn't exist, right? You can't find it because there isn't one. Instead, what you'll do, and yeah, there was a video that I posted about this the other night. It's also linked to this week's course. It's this part 1 right here. I'll open it up, and then we'll see. Oops. Actually, never mind. Started in the beginning because I had watched some of it already. Oops. Yeah, so this is, anyway, this is part 0, set up Android Studio. This is a video they put together Tuesday night thinking that it would be like, oh, this would be nice and easy, and I ran into some problems. And some of you ran into it too, and I think they might be fixed now, so maybe it's good. But sort of taught me, this is a lesson I learned the hard way a couple of years ago, that it's Android Studio, which is how you develop Android applications, has a lot of moving parts. And there's a lot of that is platform dependent, because what you do is you run an emulator on a phone, and it tries to take advantage of all of the hardware and the graphics acceleration and all of that kind of stuff. And because it's platform dependent and it's changing pretty quickly, it doesn't always work the first time. And so then a couple of years ago, we had this complete debacle during class where we started winning cold and said, okay, you agree, we're all going to install Android Studio. And between, we were actually on campus at the time. So you had 30 people in a classroom trying to download several gigabytes of Android Studio installer. So like they crashed the Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi became bottlenecked. And then everybody was setting up and having different experiences and stuff. So should have gotten to this probably a little sooner, but on Tuesday I asked people to, hey, pause your work, or set aside an hour or two before class tonight to get started. And we saw some chatter today about people's experiences with getting started with Android Studio in the Project 5 channel on Slack. And after I go through the rest of the assignment, let's talk as a group about how we want to spend our time together tonight to make sure that people understand sort of what Android Studio gives you, but also can just get started with the thing, to make sure that we can all at least have our environment ready, so that when we do get to our Project 5s, that we can work in it confidently. So anyway, that was that. So let me post the link to the YouTube video. No, I'm sorry. I'll do that after I talk about the assignment and figure out how we want to do it. But back to submitting and grading. So you can't run your Android code on the CS Department Linux machines. You just submit it from there. But it also means that I don't run your code there. So I grade the Android projects on my personal machine. Please do not include anything in your project that is malicious. I don't know. I just wanted to say that. No one ever has, and things like that. But be kind to your professor, and it will reflect that. So anyway, so then I have all that stuff. I'll set it up there. This is what you run to submit. There is a submit Android project a class that you run from the grader job. So you run something like this. It's basically just like the regular submit program you've been using. Oh, just a couple of things. Hey, there's a tool called Balsamic, which I think it's still around. I will open a new tab. That is it makes it really easy to like mock up user interfaces, and gives you some nice widgets and stuff. I recommend checking that out. So if you design it. If you want to include it in your POA, please just attach it to the email. No big deal there. If you are using text to input dates and times, please use the same format that was in Project 4. So it's the same as Project 3. And now it's time to get started. So this is what I went over in that video. I'm going to copy this link and post it. This is the like the official page for getting started with Android. Oops. And it's got Android has really great documentation. The people behind it, which is primarily Google, but there's a consortium of people behind it. They provide lots of really great information, make it really easy to get started. But as we're seeing, getting the tools set up can be a little difficult depending on what your platform is. Please read over the documentation because things change pretty quickly with Android. Really the content that I provide is pretty fundamental stuff. So I've got three. Let's see. I guess I had 2 sets of lectures about Android. There was one associated with last week, which was all about the fundamentals, which talks about sort of the runtime and how all of it works, the whole nature of emulators, and the Android toolkit. This I feel is important for people to know because it just explains the platform that they're working with. But what's probably more interesting is the lecture from this week, which is all about UI development. And I guess I don't have a screencast on it, but I do have some additional content about how to test on Android. Speaking of testing on Android, you can do unit testing and integration testing. I can't remember if I run code coverage or not. Let me double check on that. I may or may not run code coverage. I probably don't. Because honestly, good. Document says that I do not. So good. But you can write tests. I recommend that you write tests. But listen, Android is new enough, and we've only got 2 weeks, and you'll be learning a lot. And so then you've already demonstrated to me that you know all about testing, how to write unit tests, how to write integration tests. And so then I'm not going to make a requirement for the project. I really want this to be a fun project, even though getting off the ground might be a little frustrating. I want it to be, I hope it's something that is new to you, something that's novel, and something that gives you an opportunity to really understand what it's like to write, a real piece of software like an Android application. And one of the things that we'll go over tonight is how to add the dependencies so that you can use my classes in the Android project. This is a little different from the from the projects 1, 2, 3, and 4, where I provide you that Maven project. Android is built with a tool called Gradle, which is the successor to Maven. That gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of invoking tools and much more richness in terms of what you can do. I found that's not necessary for something like projects 1, 2, 3, and 4, but you definitely need it for Android. And so then there's some changes that we'll make. We'll go over those tonight that you'll have to make to your project in order to be able to use your code, which uses my code. So it's just a new dependency that you need to add. A couple more notes on the behavior of your application. I'd like you to be able to persist the appointment between invocations, between running the program, basically. So you're going to be creating an app for Android, and I'll be one of the ways I'll test it is I'll put a bunch of data. I'll kill the app. I'll close the app, and then I'll restart it again. And I want that data to still be there to reappear. And I recommend that you do that by leveraging the internal storage mechanism that's there. Android has a little file system, and so you can save stuff off. I'm sure it's not little. Sorry, it has a file system. Maybe pared down is the right word. Anyway, there's a file system there on the Android device, and you can leverage that using that internal storage mechanism. You can read all about it there. I think there's also coverage of it in the lecture notes. And finally, here are the commands that I'll be using to build and run your project, so please make sure that these work for you. What I'll be doing is I will be building and running your program, your app from the command line. So I'll be using Gradle to build it. So I'll do a Gradle clean and then a Gradle build. And this is the thing that will compile all of the various components of your Android application, put it all together. And that means, though, that I want you to submit the Gradle files submit the Gradle files. Everything that you need gets submitted. So unlike the pom.xml where you couldn't submit it, it's in here, which means that you could add third-party libraries if you wanted to. I would be careful about maybe adding third-party UI widget libraries. That might be crazy and stuff like that, either because they might not work on a particular version of the emulator, or it's more complex, and you might not have as good resources as for certain more of the fundamental widgets, which I recommend. But here again, if you're feeling confident, if you want to invest the time to explore, this is a good opportunity to do so. So I'll run GradleW build. I won't run any automated tests, and so so that's why the code coverage isn't run. Then I'll start up the emulator. So the emulator that I use, I recommend that you do the same, is the Pixel 2 running API 29. Might be a little old now, but this is stable, and it's like what I've used for a little while. I'm pretty confident that it'll work on my machine and it'll work on your machine too. Then I will deploy your application to the deploy your app to the emulator using GradleW install debug, and then I'll play around with it. I'll exercise it. I'll put it through its paces, and then I will use GradleW uninstall all to take it off the emulator. I'll start over again with the next student. So now, I mean, for those of you who maybe haven't had a chance to dive in, this might be a lot of gibberish and things like that. And so this is why we recorded the video, so you can go back and watch it later. But this is what your Project 5 is all about, and I want to let you know how I was going to work with it, so that you can make sure that that all the stuff runs then before submitting it. So your question about the POA, is the POA still due the Sunday before the last week of class? Right, yes, the POA is always due 72 hours before, so 3 days before the project. The project is due the last day of class, August 11th. That's 2 weeks from tonight. Someone asked, oh, can I use late days for it? Yes, you can, but we are butting up against the end of the term. And so then if you get it to me sort of by the end of the day Friday, I'll commit to making sure that it's graded. But get to me, getting me Sunday night when grades are due, I don't know, Monday sometime. Of course, I got to work on Monday. I can't be as confident. I will try my best because I want everybody to be successful. But please make sure as you are developing this that you are being thoughtful and deliberate about keeping things working along the way, so that you can get everything submitted in time. Questions about the assignment, about what about sort of the requirements for the project, the kinds of things that you'll be expected to do. Quick question about the final exam. Yes, it is during class time. I'll give more details next week. I want to figure out where we go next with class tonight. So please use the Zoom raise your hand functionality, and raise your hand if you have successfully installed Android Studio and deployed your application to emulator. So meaning that, hey, you watched the video and everything was okay. Okay, we've got about, let's say, half the class. Yeah, maybe only like a third of the class. Okay. Here's what I'll do. I'll spend a little bit of time working with Android Studio. I want to show you the environment. Well, I did in the video on Tuesday. was just sort of get everything installed and get it running. I didn't really work with it very much. We didn't make any changes to it. And so let's spend some time doing that tonight. And let's do that now. And then we'll take a break. And then afterwards, I think there are two things then. There's the mob programming. But then also, I would encourage people during class while we've got people here. What we'll do is we'll send some people off to do mob programming, and then everybody else can stay here in the main room. And what we can do is you can go through and watch the video on your own, and then if you run into problems or whatever, come back and we can offer, I don't know, Android Studio tech support to the best of our abilities, and hopefully everybody, but between all of us, we can get everybody up and successfully running. So we'll do that. Okay, sorry, one other question on Project 5. How much Project 5 will be reusing old parts from other programs? I'll say this, you will be reusing a lot of the classes. So you'll be reusing your appointment book, probably your text parser and your text dumper. You won't be using your servlet. There are no servlets involved, but you'll be using some of it. And there's a whole bunch of new code. All of the UI code, all of the logic that handles the interactions with the user and then goes off and does something with it. That's all new code, and that's the crux of Project 5. That's what we'll be developing there. Cool. Oh, and if you would please lower your hand, unless you have a question, and then I'll know that the sign of a raised hand is an indication. Oh, and the hand raising, that was all about if you have successfully installed Android Studio and deployed an application to it. I will talk about the file next week. No, really. So now you'll have a reason to come to class next week, right? Because there's no mob programming. Okay. I am going to, just for the sake of research on the machine, I'm going to quit my IntelliJ. I'm going to start up Android Studio. So Android Studio is actually based on IntelliJ. Android Studio is a development environment that the Android folks create and maintain in partnership with JetBrains, the people behind IntelliJ. And what it does is it provides your development environment for Android. And the whole idea here is that it's really integrated. It's everything that you need to develop your Android application is all in one place. And because we've been using IntelliJ, it ought to feel familiar to you because it's using a lot of the same widgets, the same layout, and everything like that. Same tips of the day. So on Tuesday, I went through and I installed IntelliJ. I installed all of the emulator that I needed and the SDK, all the runtime, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm not going to go through that again right now. Instead, what I'm going to do is let's just work with the Android application for a little bit. So we've got source code, and by the way, I added that source code to my GitHub repository, and it's terribly interesting right now, but you can play along at home here in Java Summer 2021. I now have an appointment book Android, and I recommend that you create yours in the same place because all the code's in GitHub now, and we can store it there. I see that Andrew and Jaeger have their hands up. Are those questions? I want to pause here. So Jaeger, do you have a question? Nope. Okay, that's fine. Just wanted to make sure.
That was just left over from the voting earlier.
No problem. Okay, so we've got code here, and we're working with it here in Android Studio. And now Android applications. Okay. So let me talk a little bit about the Android application runtime environment. So in projects 1, 2, and 3, we had what I would call a simple main program, right? Just like we've been doing, just like we learned about in CS 101. The question came in, is it just the boilerplate code or did you add anything? I did make one change to it, which I talk about in the video to get something working. I think that might be fixed now. But no, I haven't started really building anything in the application yet. I will do so tonight, though. There are a couple of things that I do want to cover tonight. So let's see here. The Android, question. My build.gradle file doesn't list a build tools version as expected. It might be. I think in between Tuesday night and now, they made, or sorry, maybe Monday night and now, I think a new version of Android Studio that doesn't have that like, awful bug that I found got released. So I don't know. So if your build.gradle doesn't look exactly like mine, that might be okay. I think what's most important is that you can start up an emulator to deploy your application to it, which I'll show shortly. So maybe that's what you should just do. In an Android application, when you run it, you don't run it on the command line. You don't, it's not like reading from standard input and writing a standard output or anything like that. It runs inside an emulator that looks a lot like a phone. So when I run my application, given my Pixel 2 API 29 emulator, what this is going to do is it's going to start the emulator. We see it over there on the left. And you've got something that, well, looks like an Android device, an Android phone. In this case, I chose the Pixel 2 phone. And it's running my application. Here is my application right here. And you can interact with this just like you would in the phone, right? And so you can, you can go back to the, so you can, I thought you could. Is it still starting up? Oh, I'm sorry, it's still loading. So let's just give it a moment to do its thing. It's building the application, and we'll deploy it shortly. There it is. It deployed the old one, or rather, it's getting rid of the old one. It's now, oh no, it's just really slow. It did react to that. So I will, I'll also go back to the home screen here. Probably between Zoom and Android Studio, my laptop is working kind of hard right now. And so we can get rid of that. Oops. So what Android Studio is doing, there you go. I just stopped it running. So what it does is it builds your application, and then it deploys it to the emulator. It's not unlike the way that we start that Jetty, that Maven starts up Jetty and then deploys your web application to it. So the whole idea is that your application is this code that runs inside some sort of container, right? For your web application, it was a web container. For your Android application, it's this emulator container. But yeah, as Harsha has pointed out, Android Studio, it's doing a lot of work. It's heavy software between Android Studio and then just the Android build system. Yep, it does a lot of work to build your application. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? For a phone application, you want things to be highly optimized, and so then it takes less CPU power to optimize things. And you also want code that is either customized for the device or can work on a bunch of different devices. So now, okay, good, there it is. It has deployed the program. You can see that launch succeeded, and so now we have our now we have our application running right here, and so you can click the next button, and it sends it to a second fragment. We'll talk about fragments on later. You can use this to navigate back. You can click on this little button right here that says replace with your own action. So this is like when you click on this little mail thing, it triggers an action. This is an application that's created out of the box. And again, if you watch the video that I posted on Monday night, you'll see exactly how I did that. And I recommend that you start with this here. So instead of running the create project 5 script, what you do is create a new project within Android Studio. This sets up all of the scaffolding, all of the source code, just like the create project 1 script did. So that's how you run your application. Now let's take some time and walk through the various parts of the application to sort of see what the source code looks like. So I'm going to stop this, I guess. Actually, well, and so, like I said, this is like a real phone device, right? So here we've got this. We can bring up the. Oops, sorry. Actually, this is kind of cool. You can run. Ooh, it's really slow. You can do things like you can run. Here's the Google Play app inside your emulator. You can play with that. It's probably going to ask me to sign in or something. Yeah, I don't need to. Do that. Oops. So unresponsive. You can actually bring up Chrome inside the emulator too, which is a little neat. And so then, lots of fun gonna be had by all. Harsha, yeah, you have a question.
Hi, I just have a quick question. So if you are running the app, I mean, you are seeing the screen of Android phone, and you will update the code, the source code. Will it? Do you have to stop the close the this screen and then it will update, or it will let live update the on the screen?
Nope, all you need to do is redeploy the application by clicking run. And we'll see lots of examples of that shortly.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you, Google News. That's completely useless. Okay, anyway, but then you can look at all of your apps here. And the phone comes with a whole bunch of stuff built in. And then right here is your appointment book application right there. And so you can just double click on it to launch it. And so basically, with the mouse, I am simulating clicking on it. Simulator also has the ability to rotate the phone. And so then one of the things that applications can do, this one doesn't. But hey, we've all seen on our devices when you rotate the phone, then it displays itself differently, right? For me, the canonical example is like the YouTube app, where you have it in portrait mode and it has the video at the top and it has all the comments and stuff, and then you rotate it and it's like, oh, you must be you want to see the pig now, and so then it goes into landscape mode, and so now you can see the entire video on the screen. And so then this is stuff that you can use the emulator to work with, so that you can see how your phone behaves there. And you can also do things like take screenshots, adjust the volume, power it on and off, and then work with the buttons here. You can also work with buttons on the device. Also, super fun. Anyway, I think it's really kind of neat that all this stuff just is in there. You can do things like set the phone's location, so we can test your app if it's accessing location services. You can do things like simulate low battery and stuff. And so, hey, maybe your application, you're writing an application that cares about low battery. It's like, oh, hey, the battery's running low. I'm going to behave differently. You can work with it here in the emulator. It's good stuff, and this is all on purpose. The people behind Android, many of whom are handset manufacturers, are manufacturers of phones. They want to be able to provide developers with these emulators so that the applications will work well on their phones, right? So people will buy their phone because it's like, oh yeah, right, all my favorite apps work on this. And the way you make sure your favorite apps work on this is you allow the developers of those apps the ability to test the apps on there. So anyway, I'm geeking out on all this stuff because I think it's super fun. Let's take a look at the source code. There's a number of files that are part of building building an Android application. Like I said, Gradle is the build tool, the thing that compiles all the source code, assembles all of the resources, builds everything together. Is all explained in that first Android lecture in terms of like the dex file and resources and all that kind of stuff. All you need to know is that these are the things that specify how the application is built. There's also a file called res for resources. And this is just actually like the resources that you use for like your README file, right? So the whole idea is that in addition to code, there are files that make up your application. And a lot of this stuff are things like, where is that? Right. Here are the PNGs let's open it up here. This is like your application icon. So right when we go back to the emulator, when we went and looked at all of the installed apps, hello. Wow, this is slow. Wait, what's my running? I'll put my Java over here. Okay. Here it is. Okay. Yeah, maybe we just didn't have keyboard focus. Focus. This is that icon right there. So one of the things you can specify in your application is like, oh, here's the icon to display here on the tool page. You can launch it for me. And it has different resolutions and different types of icons and things like that. You probably won't be messing with these things, although you can if you want. The resources also allow you to have things like what are called layouts, and these are XML files that describe your UI. So, when you think about it, right, I have a user interface, and maybe you've got a picture in your mind of what it looks like. Maybe you've drawn something out. Oh, yeah, there's a button, there's a text field, and hey, there's a menu drop down right there, all that kind of stuff. Well, how are you going to implement that? Ultimately, inside the application, all of the UI widgets, all the UI components are represented as Java objects, or objects that are written. They're objects inside Android, and you can work with them in Java. Just say that much. And so that's neat. But when it comes to creating a layout, and you want a layout that that looks good and can be resized and all that kind of stuff, coding all that in Java, all those objects in Java, is kind of a pain, because Java isn't very expressive, and you've got all the the in your way. So instead, what they have is they have XML files that describe. Here's all of that describe the a particular screen and what it looks like, and we'll this is all covered in the lecture, and we'll dive into more details next week. But this is basically how you describe what your UI looks like. And so then let's just go back and launch the application again. So you've got things like, let's see here, which one is this one? This floating action button right here actually corresponds to that little button down there. And actually, if we go back and go into split mode here, over on the right is a WYSIWYG representation. As you can see, when we put our cursor here in the XML for this floating action button, it highlights the button down here. So this is really nice. So you can do things like change the size of it over here, as I think you can. Oops. There you go. You can change. I mean, I can't change the size of it. What can I do? It's interesting. Content main. Oops. Right. This one's something else. Okay. Oh. Here we go. Sorry, I got too much stuff here. So now we're looking at a different layout. It's our content main, which just looks like this, and that contains this fragment for this up here, I think. Oh, interesting. Nav graph for XML. Oh, anyway, this is talking about how these two fragments are related. That's not terribly interesting. And so this is how in code the layout is represented. You can use the editor over here, and I think this is both light mode and dark mode, to then work with it. So like the next button right here. Let's see here. I want. Oh, interesting. Yeah, let's just go back to the main activity. And so what else do we have in here? We have our main content, but then we've also got our toolbar, which is up here. And you can do things. I think you can adjust the height and stuff like that. Yeah, you can make it a little taller. Oh no, maybe you can't. Okay, the way the layout's set out. Oh no, I guess that changed the width. And so then, as you can see, interesting. So then, when I change things in the editor, it also changes things in the XML. So now that the width, which used to be match parent, which means make it as wide as the parent is, now is explicitly 311 device pixels. It's probably not what we want, so I'm going to revert those changes. But what I wanted to show you is that you have this really nice editing mode to be able to adjust things visually and then see it represented in the XML. So you're not just like coding up the XML all the time and trying to see if it works. I guess I did change the width there. Now it's the same. So anyway, so you've got these XML files that specify what the UI looks like. Close these out. And those are in resources. Again, there's more details of this in the lectures. Another thing are values, the values resources. And here's a strings.xml. And so then these are all the display strings. in your UI. So for instance, we saw here, there's this next button, there's this hello first fragment. Well, this text is defined over here in this resource file. In order to have, as you may recall in the core API lecture, I talked a little bit about localization, the fact that your program, when it does things like displays dates or times or really any text, you want it to be localized so the person who's using it can consume it in a way that makes sense to them. And so, of course, there's localization in terms of translating display screens into different languages. And there's also, even if everybody's still speaking English, different English-speaking countries have different preferences in terms of how dates are displayed and how times are displayed, things like that. And so what we end up doing is abstracting out the logic for displaying a particular string or a date or time based on the locale, based on where the application is actually running. And you do the same thing here for these display strings in your Android program. And so every string has a name. And so then, let's just see if we can find where the hello first fragment is used. And I believe we can do a find usages. Oh, good. And we did a find usages. Oh, you know what? I don't have the plugin that does the shortcut. So I'm sorry. I'll just say I'll right click here and I'll say find usages. So it goes off and does it. And here's it's got the declaration here, but then here's where it's referenced inside an XML file. So here is the XML file that, let's go back to that here. A text view is a widget that displays text and it has all this information, including what text is displayed. And the way you then reference that hello first fragment string is the following: @string / hello first fragment. That's about this thing, actually. But the whole idea is that we're getting this tour of the code base of the Android application, and we're seeing all of the things that that you can do with Android. Someone raised their hand. Andrew, yes.
I had a question about the way that this is formatted. It seems sort of strange that it's hello first fragment with I think it's called snake case with the underlines.
Yeah.
And no capitals, but it comes out as capital hello space first space fragment. Is that because of okay? So is that a parameter or okay? So that's the name of a resource that we want to access?
Exactly. Right. And so this allows me to change the text or localize the text in one place that isn't like the code, isn't like the source code. It's, you have to change the XML file. You just change that resource. Now we could put, you can have, you can change it here directly too. So you can do that, right? But it's actually it's giving you a warning saying, hey, you're using a hard-coded string. That's not so good. You should really use a string resource instead, which is true, right? It's better to use resources so it can be localized.
Is there a reason that it gives a warning besides just that overall it makes it more modular?
Yeah, I mean, it is. Well, I mean, that's why, right? It's a best practice to reference a display string defined in a strings.xml file.
Yeah, and besides just localization, it's also if you have a string in 20 different places, you can just reference that one thing. And if you need to change it, you just change it in one spot.
Yeah, I was just curious if it could even be like a security concern somehow.
Security concern. Well, certainly from a point of view, if I need to change it, I only change it in one place. But yeah, here I can reference a different string, which is app name, and now it's got a appointment book. Can I zoom in here? Actually, see that I can't zoom in too much. Yeah, there you go. Now it's appointment book. And this is actually all in the editor. Now, if I go and I redeploy it, it will rebuild the application, and it will uninstall it from the emulator and then reinstall it. And that's his appointment book. So this is the application cycle, right? You work in Android Studio, you make some changes, then we want to try it out. You run it, you build the app and deploy it to the emulator, and now you can interact with it. Similarly, you can do things like you can define colors in resource files, which is nice. So if you want to have different, well, I mean, there's light mode, dark mode. You can have different color schemes. Hey, maybe you've got an app that is customizable for different vendors or whatever, and you want, oh, great, I'm running for PSU, so I want PSU colors, which are green and white, right? Go Vikings. You still call them the Vikings? Anyway, you can do all that stuff there. I'm sure you're all singing the Portland State fight song there on mute. So everybody come off mute and we'll sing it together, right? Does Portland State have a fight song? Yeah. Well, every time the the basketball team makes the NCAA playoffs. Yeah. Sweet 16. What's that thing called? The tournament of anyway. The thing with the people and they dribble. So you can have colors that are in resource files. You can also you can have dimensions, and so like, hey, for particular layouts and stuff. Let's see where this is used. Yep. So they decide to have the margin specified here. Okay, that's a neat thing to do. And then they have a night theme, dark theme, and a light theme. It all comes out of the box. This is neat. And I want to see what Cody's joke was. So all sorts of stuff over here in resources. There's also something called the nav graph, which I guess talks about how the fragments relate to one another if you're using fragments. I don't really cover fragments so much in the lectures. I find them a little advanced for the first, for 2 weeks of Android, but you can use them if you want. So these are all, so the build scripts build the application. The resources are all of these static resources that that contribute things like icons and display strings and stuff. But then the logic, well, actually, it's manifests. Let me look at the manifest also. The manifest is a lot like the web XML in web applications. It describes the application. It has all sorts of information about it. So not so much like the user interface of the application, but just properties of the application itself. So things like, hey, what was the icon? And actually, there again, there's the so here is the PNG for the icon. There, the label, which is the oh, interesting. Oh, I'm sorry, it's expanded it. So it's saying, yep, that's the. So where is label used? I think label is used. Is label on the. Oops, there we go. Is label here? I think this is where the label is. And so then, I don't know, let's just change this to something short. It's a very long word. So my app is a name. So let's appointed. That's probably even too long. With 2 P's. So now if I redeploy this, I'm just curious to see where this is used. It's still running. But anyway, the Android manifest has all this general information about your app, like the theme that it starts out with, and then also the activities. So now we're starting to get into the code. Every screen in your Android application is something called an activity, meaning it is something that the user interacts with or could interact with. And so then when the user interacts with a particular screen, code is executed in response to that interaction, right? You click a button, you type in some text, you scroll, you swipe, you interact with the application. And the whole idea is that when that happens, you want your application to respond to that and to do something. And it's these activity classes that ultimately do that. I just want to see if it actually made it. So swipe up, and yep, now it's called appointed. Great, that's where that label is used. So now let's actually look at some code. So here we've got the main activity. And so this is the activity that handles that first screen. And this is Java code. And remember how in your servlet, you didn't instantiate the servlet. The container did. Well, the same thing here. You don't say new main activity .run or whatever. Nope. Instead, it is the Android runtime that consults that manifest file and finds and says, okay, great, this is the activity that I'm starting, and it starts it for you. But it does call back to methods to then interact. And as you learn about in the lecture, there's this whole life cycle of Android applications. And one of the very early parts of the life cycle is you create the application. And when you create an application, or actually when you create an activity, its onCreate method is invoked. So this particular activity extends this other kind of activity and overrides the onCreate method to do the following. It's passed something called a bundle, which is some save state. You learn about this in the lectures. And then it goes and it gets it basically gets object references off to the UI widgets, right? So when the activity is started, it looks at those XML files, it creates some objects based on those XML files, and then those objects can be obtained by this activity object, and stuff can be done with them. So, like for instance, that's the content view, which is like the main widget for the activity, sets the support action bar, and then goes and gets some stuff. The interesting thing to look at is like this on-click listener. So in UI development, and really this is, I find it to be true whether you're writing like a native application or you're writing even like a JavaScript web application, the whole idea is that you have objects that represent the various widgets, and you configure those objects to say, hey, listen, when I am clicked, I'm a button, and when my button is clicked, I want to do something. And the way that you specify I want to do something is providing an object that has a behavior. This is called a listener object. It says, well, when this when this button is clicked, what do I want to do? Well, I want to call this snackbar.make method, and it's got some information along with it, and and I'm going to show it. So this is the code that's executed. Let me get this up here. When you click this right here, it says replace with your own action. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to debug this. So one of the really great things about running in the emulator is that you can debug them. So I am now going to click debug instead of run, and it will stop the activity in the emulator. Let me bring it up here. It stops the emulator. And actually, no, maybe it just relaunches it in debug mode. So now when I click this, I stop in the debugger. Andrew, you raised your hand first. What's your question?
Yeah. Basically, I'm just curious because I was trying to briefly help someone in the comments by pointing out that the previous problem with the Gradle build number 31 and 30 is no longer necessary, but it seems like he had actually a different question in the comments about accessing a library of abstracts or something. It would be Dylan.
Dylan, could you come off mute then and then ask a question?
Your implementation line that we're supposed to add the build.gradle for dependencies.
Yeah, I was gonna go talk about the error when I tried to add the implementation to build Gradle. It's IO GitHub David Whitlock examples.
Let's hold off on that for just a couple more minutes. I will get there. I want to sort of get to this code first.
Oh, okay.
Then we'll go figure that out, though. No, thanks, though. And so maybe that's an indication that there's some extra stuff that needs to be done. But that's, yeah, I'm looking at your IAMs now, and that's interesting because yeah, I did not try that out on Monday, so maybe there is more than what I just said. So okay, interesting. Okay, so let me do that again. So I have I've run the application in debug mode. So I'm currently debugging it. As you can see, the debugger is attached. And now when I click on the little email icon, the debugger stops here in this method. So this allows me then I get back debugging stuff, and so then I can look at some of the code here. It's okay. It says it displays some text replaced with your own action, and it configures something about this snack bar, and then calls set action with just some regular action, and then calls show. I'm going to modify this code in a minute to start using the appointment book to make it a little bit more interesting. But anyway, this is how you work with Android code, right? You write Java code to handle all of the application logic, and then we're using this app compat activity, and you can go and read about that. It has some nice things to get started. I find a little bit overkill, but you can use the libraries that you want. So you can have a fancier UI, or you can have one that's a little bit more straightforward. But I think more so than the other projects, you have to do some research on your own to really understand what all these APIs are about and how to wire everything together. My hope is, though, that the Java stuff at least will be familiar to you. So even though it's a new API, you've already learned a whole bunch of different APIs, all of the Java I/O stuff and all the stuff around Java util and the dates, where you've learned all of that. This is just another Java API that you'll be learning, and but it will take you, but you'll be learning how to do Android stuff instead of regular command line stuff. Okay. Let's. I want to do a little bit more before we take a break, but it is almost time for a break. I want to then demonstrate how we can start using the appointment book stuff from in this class. So, sorry, in this project. So this right here is this file. I guess we can really look at it. It comes with activities, and it has classes for fragments and things like that. And it's laid out just like all of your other code is. There are unit tests here, so you can run JUnit. And I think it only supports JUnit 4 now I think about it. I don't know if you can use JUnit 5 or not for writing tests. But it also has what are called Android tests, which are essentially integration tests. And so then this allows you to do things like work with your UI objects, even though there isn't a UI behind it, which is super nice. And so there's a little bit of material in the lecture notes. If you want to dive into it, that's great. But again, automated tests are not a required part of the project. So to make sure to invest your time appropriately. Now what I want to do here is I'm going to create a new appointment. Oops. Appointment. And I'm going to create that class. It's going to be in my main. Yes, I would like to add it to GitHub, and always do that. And now I am going to have this extend. Oops. I'm going to have this extend abstract Windows abstract appointment, which of course I can't find, so I need to add it now. Yeah. And now this is where I need to update my build.gradle for the app. Here are the dependencies. So let's see here. I want, let's go back to the assignment here. I ought to be able to say this. So I believe that is the same dependency that we had before. That doesn't have like colon expected. Oh, I've got the wrong kind of quotes. That's why. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, thank you, PDFs. So let's see here. I will sync my Gradle project. And I think this is where Dylan and others have run into trouble. So we'll see how it goes. Let's look at sync build model. Okay, Dylan, you only saw yours on build. We'll handle that next then. Let's see if IntelliJ gets it, or Android Studio gets it. Well, it certainly is taking its own sweet time. It's downloading stuff. Oh, interesting. Sure, right, of course, because Gradle keeps its repository in a different place than Maven, I guess. Okay, I was thinking about it. Okay, it looks like, okay, it looks like it might have found it. So let's see here, did it find it? Oh, still not, okay, it's still indexing stuff. Okay, so like, wow, it's gotta go index a whole lot of things. Okay. I didn't realize I had this many dependencies for my examples, but I think I guess I do, because I've got, I think Groovy, so I should take out those Groovy examples. There's no reason for that to have Groovy in there. Oh, wow, 2 minutes synced the first time as well. Okay. Yay. Okay, so now IntelliJ seems to be happy, and we'll just add all this. Let's see here. So then this dot description. So I'll just have a simple little example here. Create field, string, yes, description, make it final, and then add the constructor. Yay. Okay. And then same thing with begin time string. And create a field, make it final, add put the parameter. And then same thing for end time string. And let's go find it. Right. So the description is teach Java. Begin time string is going to be 8. So begin time string would be 7/28/2021 at 5:30 p.m. And then Allie, think we're gonna go tonight. Not too late. 07/28/2021. Let's say we're gonna go until 9 tonight. So now we've got that appointment, and so now instead of that that text, I just want to say appointment.toString. Now I'm going to let's see here. I'll redeploy and debug, and so then it is building. So what I've just done is I've started using my appointment book classes inside my Gradle project, inside my Android application. Of course, what you would do is just copy and paste your code in here. I just want something simple that'll work, but still use the abstract classes so we can demonstrate that yes, it'll get the dependency okay. So it worked running the app. We will find out as soon as it finishes building, and deploying to the emulator, which does seem to be taking quite a while. Oh, interesting. There is a new version of Android Studio. So even though I just installed it 2 days ago, there's a new one there. Okay, good deal. I will upgrade tonight. So maybe all of that like debacle that I had on Monday in that video would not be necessary. I got to admit that really threw me for a loop. I was not terribly happy that it was so difficult to install Android Studio. Wow, it is still thinking about it. Assemble debug. Oh, I did deploy it. I just missed it. Yeah, keep missing it. No peasant deployed yet. Wow, that's taking a long time. Why is it taking so long? Build. It's building. Oops. Oh, we got a let's support class file version 56. Oh, crap. Huh. Oh, why does it have family? Okay. Oh, interesting. Well, then. Yeah, so let's see what it does from the command line. So it's still running this. I don't know. I think I want to stop it. How do I stop it? Restart. Next problem. Okay, that's neat. That would do it. I need to fix that. Oh, darn it. So let's see here. What 56. Okay, so here's what's going on. When I compiled those artifacts for my class, I used it's for I bet I did it for Java 16, and it doesn't support class file versions for Java 16. So let's go figure that out. Sorry, 56 is the name of that. Nice. Okay then. This is the universe's way of saying that it's time for a break. So I want to spend some time working on this. I'll give everybody else a 12-minute break and see if I can figure it out quickly. If I can't, well, we'll work around it and figure it out. So let's all reconvene at 7 o'clock. I'd appreciate it if I could focus on this. And so if you have questions, just wait until we come back. I'm going to pause the video, and let's just check back in another 10 minutes. Okay, so just took a little break. And so we were working on this problem where when we ran either in IntelliJ or here on the command line, did your Gradle build, saw this problem where we get this unsupported class file version. 56 is complaining about family jar and the examples jar. And I looked into it, and I'm like, this is funny. And I went and looked, it's like, well, and what I realized, I'll cut to the chase here, is that I'm going to put this IntelliJ. That the dependency that that I had in the assignment is wrong. Instead, you don't need to have all of the examples there in your build dot. Oops, sorry, the other. Let's modify this build.gradle. Here, there we go. This used to be examples. All you need is projects, and projects actually is compiled with like an older class file version, and so then it should work. So I'd like those of you who are playing along at home, please change this to be projects. I will change it in the assignment shortly. And when I did that, I was able to build on the command line successfully. And so I'm going to try it from IntelliJ, see if I can debug it there and see if it works any better. So I'll watch the build go by. Okay, that seemed to work, and now it's installing it. So I'll wait for this thing to be installed. That's so successful. Waiting for the debugger attached, which is Android Studio. Let's launch up the application. And now when I click this, yay, I get the toString of my appointment. So what this is meant to demonstrate is that you can modify, you can add dependencies on the on my code to your Android application. You can just copy in the source code from your other projects. I saw lots of chats go by. Sorry. So I got everything working for me. Those of you who are playing along at home, I'm checking up on the IMs here shortly.
Mostly everyone was saying it seems to work as well. For
when they change the projects. Good. Phew. Okay. Yep. I guess, you know what, it's funny, the examples is probably the dependency that we use in the command line, because in examples has things like the invoke main. No, what does it have? Anyway. Oh, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, this I think will work okay. So this is an important change. I will add it in right here. Actually, what's my change here? Oh, I'll just revert that change. And so now here from IntelliJ, from Android Studio, I will commit these changes, add dependency on the projects jar, so that you can use classes like abstract appointment. And of course, that will be your your point book dumper, point book parser, all that kind of stuff. Okay, and I will push these up to GitHub. Those are the big things that I wanted to show about Android Studio. Really, I wanted to get everybody to the point where we can modify our project to start doing some things with the classes, add that dependency, and then show how you can deploy the application in debug mode, so that you can walk through the debugger as you interact with your application. I want to pause here for questions in terms of what we've seen so far tonight with Android.
I have a question.
Yes.
It seems pretty clear based on what you've got over now, but that I would just be 100% certain. This app doesn't connect at all to the same like servlet interface thing from Project 4, right?
Exactly. Yes. So then, oops, sorry, I'm sitting down. I just get my notes. Correct. The servlet is not involved at all with this. It is just the application. All the logic is there, part of the app, just on the phone.
And I'm curious, would it be something as sort of simple, not quite simple, but simple, of just like importing the servlet code and then working with it a little bit? Or is it such a different system, especially because of the Maven versus Gradle situation, that trying to expand this to include the Jetty server kind of thing would take a lot of work?
Well, you wouldn't run the Jetty server as part of the application, right?
True.
I mean, if you, I think someone here said, "Oh, gee, it kind of would have been nice to have the Android app talk with the REST APIs." Yes, maybe. And hey, in an 11-week version of the course, maybe we could do that. But well, I think what you want to do instead is you would so you could run the web app. You could run Jetty, in one process there on your local machine, and then use the point book REST client to make calls. I'm pretty sure that the HTTP URL APIs are supported on Android. You will need to give the app permission to access the network. One of the things that we didn't talk about tonight, but it's in the lecture, is that there's a way as part of the manifest to say, hey, here's the permissions that my app needs. And so then we've all done it. Right? We've installed an app. It's like the first time it goes to access the network, it's like, hey, I want to access the network, or hey, I want to access the your contacts. Those kinds of things. So you have to grant permission to do so, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so it could be done. It's just not part of this assignment. Don't worry, you'll have plenty to do in the next 2 weeks.
Sure.
Nice. Some other questions came in. Let's see here. Cody, thanks for posting the whole thing. Question from Bennett. Projects 4 and 5 take the earlier projects and just implement them in different forms, correct? Yes. I mean, essentially what we're doing is we're keeping a lot of the back end or internal logic the same, right? It's the same text parser, it's the same text dumper, same pretty printer. But now we're interacting with them in different ways. So in Project 4, it was like, oh yeah, you're interacting it from this client API, for this client program. And here we're interacting those, as part of a Android application. Nice. Yep, and that's the intent. We'll be using Android Studio for developing UI objects. Yes, feel free to do that. I looked at it a little bit here in the beginning here. There's the these layouts that you have the XML files for. So for instance, where is that next button? Sorry, that's not what I wanted. I think we want fragment first. Yep, here's this. Hey, you can do things like, move the button. Oops. Maybe move this. Okay, no, it has all these. Interesting. There's all those like little spring things on them. Yeah, and now, you can move it around here. It updates the XML. Yep, you can definitely do that. Here, hey, you could also handcraft the XML, but that's lame. Right, you say that works. How does balsamic wireframes come into picture? So that's just for sketching it out. So part of your POA. So if you didn't want to write things out by hand, or if you wanted to, have something that actually looks like your UI, if that helps you, go ahead and use balsamic. It is not required by any means, and it's only if you want to play with it. I've had students in the past who really liked it. It worked well for them. They thought it was kind of a neat little tool. So I recommend it, but it's just that a recommendation. Okay. So it's 7-Eleven, and I think that's everything I wanted to cover in about Android tonight. So let's see here. I'm going to do the following. I'm going to create some breakout rooms. Let's see here. How many? There are 36 people in class. Oh, question: does Project 5 need to support multiple appointment owners? Yes, because your Project 4 did. That's a very good question. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and create 7 breakout rooms. I'm going to let you all choose where to participate, because one of these rooms, I'll just make it room 7 here. I'm going to rename to Android Studio help. So here's what I'd like you to do. So if you're here for mob programming, I'm going to open up the room shortly, and you can go do the mob programming, and you talk about the Kata first. But if you've already done mob programming, and if you want to engage with your peers to help, actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to use a room for that. You can just stay here and hang out. So let's see here, 6 that should be playing. If you haven't gotten your Android Studio up and running, or if you're one of the people that has sort of learned some tips and tricks, especially for Windows, I'd really appreciate if you could hang around and help other people out, help other people get started with Android Studio. So, but first, let's talk about the. Oops, that was me looking at how to solve that problem. Let's talk about the kata for tonight's mob program. So the mob programming example katas are purposely a little bit more complex, even though they call it easy. I don't know, there's a lot to it here. But basically, you know, what I want you to do is implement a Pac-Man game, right? So for anybody who, and some of you might be too young to have played, you know, Pac-Man in a Pizza Hut in the early '80s, where everybody had mullets. Basically, the idea is that you've got little Pac-Man on the board, and Pac-Man has a direction, and so it's represented as a V or a caret or greater than or less than, and then Pac-Man can navigate the board, and can eat dots. You can also have walls on the board, things like that, so then. I'm going to open up the rooms and ask people who haven't participated in mob programming to go into one of those rooms. Please try to be with at least 3 other people. So a mob somewhere between 4 and 6 people, I think, provides the best experience. Amongst yourselves, determine whose GitHub repository you're going to use for collaboration. Hopefully, someone in the room has a public GitHub repository that has the Portland State Java stuff, so you can use the create kata script to create yourself a new kata. And then let's, I don't know, check back in an hour plus to see how things were going with the Pac-Man. So if you're here for mob programming, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms now. Otherwise, please stay here in the main room if you are interested in getting help or at least going through the process of installing Android Studio. Okay. So looks like some people are leaving, so that's fine. So here is, I'm going to post the link to oops, that's not the right link though, to getting started with Android Studio. And let's go from here. So to start out, and I'm going to keep recording this if this is okay. If anybody is just like, I don't want my screen to be recorded, let me know and I'll pause the recording. But it might be very helpful for people who didn't attend tonight. So who has started down the Android Studio path but hasn't been able to successfully deploy an application to their emulator? Please come off mute and we'll try to help you as best we can. Tell us about your situation. Nobody? It's possible. Okay, oh, it looks like, yep, it started. So then, okay, let's, here, I'll just keep the recording going maybe, and I'm gonna fix this assignment and stuff like that. So anyway, so speak up if you have a question, if you've run into something that doesn't work, but the, the goal here is to make sure that you can get Android Studio up and running.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
It's not about setting up Android Studio, but it was about the bug that you had before the break.
Yeah.
Came back, I guess, a little too late to see that.
Sure. Yeah, and I went pretty fast. So let me show you what I did. So, and yeah, since we got time, I'll explain what the bug was about. So, different versions of Java, as they evolve the Java development kit, every once in a while, so there's Java source code and they compile into bytecode. And the bytecode is a binary format. And over time, they've made changes to that binary format to improve things. Sometimes there are new language features that require different kinds of bytecodes for the Java virtual machine, or they'll make some changes to the file or whatever. And so this means that different versions of Java are associated with different versions of the bytecode. And the Android toolset, the SDK, only works with certain versions of Java, which are now getting a little old. Right now, it works with it only supports Java 11 bytecode. Well, those two dependencies that I was complaining about, the files jar and the family jar and the examples jar, were compiled with Java 16, I think. And what it was telling me was like, oh yeah, those two jars, I can't deal with them. I can't read this bytecode. It's too new. Okay, damn. But then I realized, like, wait a second, you don't need examples. You don't need family for this. We just need the one in the projects. And the projects jar actually was compiled with Java 7 or Java 8, I guess, what I went back and looked at. And it was okay. So if you just change it to be the projects dependency instead of the examples dependency, it worked for me and it seemed to work for others too.
So that's in the build.gradle for the app.
Yes. And I also pushed it to GitHub. So
Okay.
I'll post that link too.
And yeah, there was some kind of talk about how there was some kind of error that came up in the comments that was about like archives or something, or artifacts, something
I think
like.
it's that same one.
Okay,
well,
so
actually, they saw something. Well, I didn't see that exact error that was posted, but I believe the same people said, "Oh yeah, now it's working for me now."
So we should implement these changes so that we can use the classes that you've started, which we'll use as a base to build back our project 3/4 functionalities.
Yeah. So this is so you can just copy your classes over, and you'll be able to find things like abstract appointment book and appointment book dumper. Right. All those classes that I provide are that you used will now be available in your Android project.
Okay. I made an appointment class myself. It has nothing in it basically though. Should I just delete that and then change and it'll download those?
Well, after you add the dependency, yeah, after you add that implementation, it will download it.
It'll download it automatically, or do I have to like include things?
You'll need to refresh your Gradle, I think. Yeah, there's that. It popped up the sync Gradle, I guess. Yeah, you have to do that.
Mhm.
Give it a try.
All right.
Science.
This is a very random side note, but I was right-clicking on appointment to delete it, and one of the very first options that came up in the right-click options is add C++ to module, and I did notice when making a project that there was like pure C++ or something.
Yeah, I think
option.
Right.
Obviously, that's not the purview of this class, but I was curious if you've ever worked with adding C++ to one of these Java things, and how does that actually work?
Yeah, briefly, because someone has a question. But yes, I mean, there's something called native methods, which allow you to then call native binary code from Java. It's how the JVM is implemented in certain places, and then you can do it in your own code too. So what you do is you have there's a convention in terms of like how you need to name your C++. Well, I mean C, so C functions, and there is a C API for receiving the primitive types and for objects and stuff. So yeah, look up Java native methods.
All right, thanks.
Balaji, you had a question?
Yes. So I'm trying to think through a few of the scenarios that we want to do with the Android app. So one of the things is adding an appointment and adding an appointment book and the list of appointments for that book. And you said you want to store it in the Android device, right?
Yes.
The internal storage.
Yep.
So to be frank, I haven't gone through the lecture videos, but are you showing it? Are you giving an example there? Just wanted to ask.
No, I'm not, but perhaps I could. So I did. So someone in room 3 asked for some help, but maybe that's something I could do shortly after I work with them. In the meantime,
Okay.
I encourage you to read up on that on the API.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
also one more question. So is Android Studios the only way to create the UI components for supporting the project, or is there a way to import from somewhere, some third-party library?
Oh, you can use third-party. Well, you can use third-party widgets, but it's not the same thing as the UI, right? So I mean, you could have like a button that looks a certain way or a menu that behaves a certain way. And yes, there are third-party widget libraries, but of course, you need to assemble it all into a into your application. So, for instance, you have a date picker, right? So, oh yeah, you click this, it gives you a little calendar. You can choose the date, or same thing for the time. I believe there are ones that are built into Android these days. But if there's a third-party one you want to try, give it a try. You can do that in this project where you couldn't add libraries in project 1, 2, 3, 4. But experience has shown that some students have spent a lot of time trying to get the third-party libraries to work. And so then be sure to just balance your time in terms of what you invest in.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. And there are some Android features. For example, there are native features for any app that we use in Android. For example, back should be on the left side, left top corner, right? So when we are building it, I mean, we would be following the exact same procedure. And for example, if there are some hidden items in the menu, because you would be testing our projects individually. So how would we define those behaviors if we had our own behavior?
Sorry, could you ask that again?
So for example, the navigational flows within our apps, if it differs for each and every one of us, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, how do we actually mention that behavior? Okay, you have to slide it, or you have to.
Yeah, that you can have that in your README, in your help, but one of the challenges, the design decisions that you need to make in this project is is how it looks and feels, and ultimately how usable it is. So yeah, if it's too tricky, I won't be able to figure it out, and then you risk not getting a good grade because I can't figure out how to use your project. So I think there's a balance there between sort of like simplicity and ease of use, just getting something that works, and then having something that it takes full advantage of the widget set or of the way you can interact with an application.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mike, I saw you raise your hand. Someone else in room 3 asked for some help also, so I'm going to bop over there for a couple of minutes. I'll be back. Okay, thanks.
Hey guys, we're running the 29th version of SDK, right?
The what version of the SDK?
29th. Right? Or
Okay.
31?
API 29. Okay. I think that's for the SDK, but specifically it's in relation to emulator, which that's for the AVD, the Android virtual device, and you're setting up Pixel 2, and you want to do API 29.
Got it. The funny part is I installed Android Studio today, and it looks like we'll just drop the error message into the chat. Pretty
that'll
fun.
help. Yeah, I didn't get that issue, so I can't say whether any way to fix it. Hopefully, Whitlock does know. I would bet so.
Where are you getting that error?
Oh, when I'm compiling the project, I know I
Okay,
figured
did
what to do with it.
Did you have to create the AVD or whatever? Yeah, go to your AVD manager.
Mhm.
And do you have Pixel 2 API 29 on there?
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah, I just created. The reason is I think when I built the project first, I didn't have anything, so I had the building SDK version set to a string of 31, and I I just removed it from the. Give me a second. It's build.gradle from the Android, and it just compiles to version 29. It looks like it's working just fine. So I just removed that one of the parameters from there.
Okay.
The parameter was build tools version 29. So it looks like it compiles. So we'll see how it's gonna go farther.
So does that cover your question?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm fixing that. I fixed the assignment now. Cool. Raise their hands. Andrew, yeah.
Yeah, my question is, so I've imported the GitHub thing in build.gradle,
Yeah.
and I noticed the PDF, it says you'll need to, in order to use the abstract classes for my Maven artifacts, do this. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a class called appointment and then have it implement or extend abstract appointment, but it is showing in red and basically doesn't recognize it, it looks like.
I wonder if
Should
you
I
need
have-
to. Did you
should I have
sync your Gradle
import?
project?
Should I have import in this Java?
Yeah, I think so. Here, can you
Or-
share your screen? Let's take a look.
So we've got this. Should I actually just do that? Copy this in?
Yeah. Yep. You find it, then you find it. No. It might be. So let's take a look at your. Go back to your build.gradle. And did you? Let's see here.
Copied it directly from here.
Yeah, no, that looks okay. Did you sync your Gradle project?
How do I do that?
Yeah, click on Gradle there, and then is it that thing? Oh, bummer. How do you?
I can try to run it again.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, try building the project and see if that does it too. I was Internet Studio prompted me to sync it when I made the change. I'm sure. So it's not.
Oh wait, maybe I should do implements.
Nope. Actually, extend is correct. It's a class.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not even. It's not even finding it though. The import would work. Otherwise,
It's not override abstract method. Oh, okay. So that
Oh.
implies that actually
Okay. Yeah.
working to an extent, but this isn't recognized.
But it's IntelliJ. Yeah. Go back to the build.gradle and just delete that comment right there, and I mean, make some change to the file and see if it like will ask
Or they
you
could delete
to.
this.
Yeah, maybe. Now, does it
Some-
tell you?
Sometimes the yellow light bulb, you can select that yellow light bulb right there. See if that says
Oh,
sync.
yeah.
Oh no, sometimes
darn
it says sync.
I've deleted the comment.
Yeah, I think it'll work fine from Gradle, but IntelliJ doesn't. IntelliJ doesn't know about that new dependency, and I don't know why. Okay, so then see the magnifying glass in the top right. It's in the menu top right. Yep,
Oh.
oh yeah, right. Yep. And like search for sync Gradle. There you go. Sync project with Gradle files. Sync.
It's doing something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. It took like 2 minutes for me. So maybe this is progress. Oh yeah, no, there it is. Bigger hand. I saw that it scanned it. Nope. Oh, since it finishes in a
Okay,
slow.
now. Okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay, yay.
Yeah.
Now it's complaining that you don't have the things.
My method.
Nice. Okay.
All right.
Good
Great.
call.
And just do that for all the other ones, right?
Oh well, actually, I just say copy in your code, and then it should be okay, right?
Copy in the exact code from
Project 4.
Okay. Well, yeah. Project 4 ideally, but I haven't done any changes for that. So.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. But yes,
and
right. Since
you have these, but this is like the most basic version possible and doesn't actually do anything.
Right. Exactly.
Up the actual code then. And yeah, like I said, I haven't finished Project 4, so in regards to making this work, I might just save importing stuff for once I'm done with Project. I don't want to like put in Project 3 stuff and then take it out and put it back.
Yep, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Anyways, and you mentioned fragments are too complex, but I am curious.
You know, I sort of learned the old school way of doing it, and so then to me, fragments seem kind of newfangled, but it's all new to you. So then, ultimately, get something to work. I might be able to answer that many questions on fragments, but there's just good documentation.
And you said that we don't need to do any unit or integration tests, right?
Yep.
But if we were to do them, I can imagine one reason you're saying not to do them is because testing actual user input UI, especially with a touch interface, is probably pretty difficult.
Well, actually, I mean, there are tools out there to help you, but yeah, it's sort of like a step beyond what we've been covering here.
I mean, for one thing, maybe you could have inputs be like, this button is pressed, rather than like this area of the screen is pressed.
Yeah, right.
At least there'd be that.
And that's what the integration tests sort of do. You get the Java object, and then you interact with it, you see all of the logic works.
Interesting.
Yep.
I'm surprised that aside from Bennett, there seems to be no people with issues. But anyways, that solved my issue, so I'll just stop sharing the screen now.
Cool.
I was able to get everything running okay. I just kind of missed the very last thing that you were doing, which was editing like the main activity.
To add the dependency.
Since no one else has a question, if you could show that again.
Sure. And actually, I just reposted the link with the GitHub changes, so that's
Oh,
another way to look at it. Yeah, and Matt, you said you were still having Haxim issues.
Yeah, but you can do the other thing first. I'm
Okay.
still trying
Well,
to remember.
yeah, basically what you need to do is add a dependency on your project to one of my classes. Oh, let me show my screen. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. I got that part. I just didn't get the showing the appointment on the like preview.
Gotcha. Yep.
Thank you.
And so then, yeah, and so then create the appointment class by new class. Create the appointment there in your source code, and then add the something like this to just to get it to compile and give something useful, and then modify the main activity to from the on-click method to create that appointment.
Okay.
Let's go. So, Matt, are you still consulting my screen, or are you
No,
good
no,
with
I'm
this?
good.
Okay,
Thanks.
cool. Yep. Let's see here. Balaji, your hand is raised. Do you have a question?
No, sorry.
Great, no problem.
Yeah.
Want to make sure. Okay, Matt, what was your Haxm issue? And let's see if we can work through that, because you're probably not the only person that's going into that.
I mean, it's still the same thing. Like, I also tried, for some reason, when I tried to find the version of WSL, it like is a server connection error. And I went online, and some people were saying try installing it directly from the Intel like source. So I'm trying to figure that out now.
Try to install Haxm from the Intel source.
Yeah.
I tried doing that, and I got a result much like Jaeger Tang. I'll just repost what he wrote on Slack. But basically, we got this error, which it would help you identify what's the problem, I think.
Yeah.
It shows all these different things. The main thing that we had that's common between his post and mine is this Hyper-V disabled no part. It's pretty clear based on the documentation that you need to have Hyper-V off. And it doesn't seem, I can't figure out a way to do that with WSL2 installed. You know, I went over it in the office hours with you, but basically it seems like basically if you have WSL2, even if you only have Windows 10 Home, and they say that Hyper-V is exclusive to Pro and beyond, you actually do get like a version of Hyper-V or something. So that's probably enough because Intel could go whack about it. I guess they don't want incompatibility issues. But because I don't have like a Hyper-V option because I don't have Pro, it's kind of difficult to figure out how to turn it off. So that's why I eventually just gave up and didn't worry about having Haxm, which might be faster. Although when I was looking this up, there was some information that said that this was from 2017, so it could be very out of date, but they were having kind of the same issue of Hyper-V conflicts with Haxm. And basically, apparently, according to them, if you run the emulator from Hyper-V, for them at that time in 2017, the GPS emulation was actually better. It was more smooth. Whereas with Haxm, it apparently could only be like set location to here or to here or to here, versus where as the Hyper-V emulator apparently was able to have like a smooth regression of a GPU location option, which of course is pretty important for that kind of debugging. But we're obviously not involved with GPS emulation here, so I don't know. But it seems functional enough for me to have
The
not.
thing is, I can't even run the
installed
emulator.
Maxim.
Like, or
Yeah.
for some reason, this virtual, I have no idea. And like when we installed it, it didn't. Like, I forget. There's like Q. We installed Q, or I don't remember the letter, but it was like Q or something. Or like one of the options that we picked. And I noticed the other one said Haxen was required, but this one didn't. And then installed and it worked. And then when I tried to run it, it just says, nope, you do need it. So I kind of can't really get around it. I also don't think I have WSL2 because at least the Ubuntu link you posted, it just said if you don't see anything or you get an error, it means you have version 1, which is what since I didn't see it, or it said like server couldn't connect to server. I'm assuming that's what they mean by error. So I don't think I even have.
That's, in my opinion, somewhat promising actually, because if you don't have WSL2, then the first thing I would change is install WSL2. Obviously, that's a more involved process because WSL is kind of a pain to get running, but that's at least a place to start, because the main distinction between us, Jaeger and I and you, is that we have WSL2. And when I looked into this, it basically seemed like that's the reason that we can get this to run, because it has like a minor version of Hyper-V. It sounds like you don't have Hyper-V and Haxim is giving you shit, which is unfortunate. I don't know why. It should really not be giving you shit about it. But because of that, my recommendation to you, although it would be basically abandoning an attempt to do Haxim, would be to just go ahead and update WSL2. For one thing, WSL2 is just better than WSL1. From what I know, like basically it just has a lot more compatibility. So I'd recommend that anyways. But what's interesting is, based on the information that I found, it seems like WSL2 is unique from the first one because it actually uses a Linux kernel, which is why that it has like, it says Ubuntu. But did your version of WSL, have you confirmed that it actually has any relation to Ubuntu, or?
Well, the thing is, I have Ubuntu installed, so just like
as a VM or as a dual boot?
Yeah,
or what?
As a VM or like the app or whatever.
Okay. Wait, an app? Do you mean you use WSL and it connects and it says like Ubuntu loaded up, or what?
No, it's just I can't remember when I did. I think I installed it just for the bash, but like it's just the whole emulator.
Okay, so you can run WSL, and when you do that, it mentions something about being Ubuntu.
Yeah, or I can just 1 second, hold on.
Like
I haven't really messed. I really haven't
messed
with it since I downloaded it. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what the context was. I can't remember why I downloaded it.
Okay.
But
that's a whole different process if you're using WSL versus using a VM box or something like that. Yeah, I use VirtualBox. Anyways, if you're comfortable with sharing your screen, we could possibly try to work it out in more detail.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, or I mean, I don't know if Dave wants to do that, or I mean, I can just try to install WSL2, I guess.
Yeah, that's the first thing that I would recommend, because if you loaded up PowerShell, can you load up PowerShell? Because it might be good to walk.
Yeah, I mean, I can show you, or no, I can, and I can enter that command, and then it takes forever. Like, I'll like sit there for a minute, and then I'll just after a while just say like cannot connect to the server.
Okay, that's
something server connection.
That's
something
probably enough to know that you don't have WSL2.
Yeah,
it's too bad that you can't just look it up in like Control Panel or something like that. But part of this whole exploration into subsuming the functionality of Linux is that that's messy. I think it's a relatively good idea, although, you know, it's just Microsoft's creeping into everything. But it is nice to have that functionality when it does work. But my point is, it's messy. So yeah, this whole thing about Hyper-V and is it Hyper-V or is it Windows subsystem or whatever, it's all crazy. But yeah, I think the link that I posted, I'm trying to reference what it said again. I think it might even be all the way at the top. Oh wait, yeah, I wouldn't have that comment anymore. But I should have it in my notes. I'm just trying to remember if it specifically called out the thing that you mentioned, which is that it said like server could not connect or something like that.
Well, you guys are working this. I'm going to step away. I'll still be on audio, but
Sure. Well, I can't find anything on it. But in any case, I would say that you probably don't have WSL2. And me, with WSL2, I still can't get Haxum working, but I can get it running. So
Yeah.
that's the, you know, minimum viable product here. And that's what I go for.
Wow. Installing. Why is this so much? Such a pain in the ass to install.
Yeah, it is.
Like there's like a simplified version, but it wants you to join Windows Insider program or some crap.
Yeah, weird.
I'm just looking at the Microsoft Docs.
Talking about WSL?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a way to get WSL without that, I think. But it's
I mean,
been a
there's
while.
like a manual version, yeah, and it's like 6 steps, and it's I don't know if that's what you're talking
annoying. Yeah, it's too bad because the only thing that I can think of causing me to not be able to get Haxum is because I have WSL2, but you don't appear to, so I don't know why it's giving you shit, but I don't know. Theoretically, have you gone to your BIOS and enabled virtualization? I mean, that's a basic
No,
step.
I mean, because you'd have to like restart, and
yeah,
we're in class, so I didn't
yeah. I mean, you could still rejoin the lecture though.
Yeah, no, I know. I just was listening, and then I was trying to figure this out without restarting, taking the whole time.
Yeah, okay.
But
so, yeah.
I mean, I can. I guess I'll try that first, because I mean, someone in Slack said they got it to work by doing that. So
yeah,
Joseph.
I would guess that you already actually have that enabled, but you never know. I feel like I might have had to enable it myself. I had to deal with some BIOS issues like several months ago, and if I came across that, I probably would have enabled it. But then again, I also installed this virtual machine stuff, so I probably actually did it for that. So theoretically, it is off by default in your computer. So I would recommend that as a base step, because before anything, you should have that. And I think WSL1 probably wouldn't require it. So I would look into that.
Yeah, 1 second. I gotta see. I don't even know what the key is.
Yeah, you got to look it up for your specific motherboard producer. Anyways, the main thing I'm going to try to do is figure out a way, if possible, to set up Android Studio to run the app on my device, since that would probably be both cooler and simpler and faster than trying to emulate it. And that might be actually a solution theoretically for you, although it's probably a kind of hacky one. And overall, you should still be primarily developing for the emulator, because that's what Whitlock will actually be working with.
Yeah, I don't know. That's it'd be a cool thing to do, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
and wait and find out it's all messed up.
That's not the minimum viable product.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll try to, or I'll find whatever my BIOS key is and figure that, or go from there.
Change what, Bennett? Oh, I guess you got a screenshot. Let's see. I wouldn't worry too much about Control F. I had to mess around with this a little bit when I was setting up Git on my Windows 10 device, but it seems like it's all worked out. But this definitely is like a Mac interface, I can tell. So I don't know how it works on Mac. So yeah, it's probably best to be sure with Whitlock, because he obviously uses a Mac.
Sorry, what was the question?
It was from Bennett, and he was asking about this issue that he brought up in a screenshot about control or carriage return line F. I don't know what line F is, but LF line separators to the Git repository and stuff like that.
Oh. Going to do that. We choose fix and commit that. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, take the recommendation. So I would say fix and commit in mind. Yeah, in mind. Because right, you don't want. I think Git recommends that carriage return line feeds are not. Well, or automatically, yeah, it gets it right. So like when you do a checkout on Windows, it does it the Windows way. You check out on Linux or Unix, it does it the right way. It's not like you're checking in binary files where it would matter because they're text files. Yeah. Yeah, so I was checking out some of the file APIs for Android. And they just give you Java.io files that you can get from the file system. So then that should be super familiar for everybody.
Is there a way to check the directory of the Android SDK that we're using?
Sorry, what do you mean by check the directory?
I'm trying to figure out a way to run it on my own phone. And so what I'm trying to do is follow along a guide, and it says that I have to use the command adb devices to be sure that it's connected with the system. And it's talking about the Android SDK, Android _ SDK / platform -tools directory.
Right.
And I'm assuming that's, wherever I set that up. Not entirely sure I remember where, so thought I would check, see if there's a way from Android Studio
to figure out
the
where
actual,
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, probably. Let's see here. I bet it's here under. You do it with the DVD SDK manager. It's going to tell you where it is. Yeah, maybe here.
Okay. And yeah, this was actually one of the most confusing things going back to the Haxum thing, because if you scroll down, I wonder, I guess because you're on a Mac, it may not have that because, yeah, I don't know if you're on like one of the new CPU style Macs, but in any case, funny. Yeah, what's funny is for Intel CPUs that support it, it actually shows the Intel Haxum thing, and it even says installed, but it's not actually. My guess is it is installed, but it just doesn't enable it. but it's funny because that was one of the things that came up tutorial to try to figure it out. So you're went to system settings. In appearance and behavior system settings, then Android SDK. And yeah, okay. Then for me, it's an app data local. So I'll just go there and see if I can get that going. One thing that's kind of neat is that Windows 11 will apparently support Android like natively or something. So I wonder how that'll shift things in the future.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yes.
Obviously, that doesn't affect Macs.
Yeah, well, and I guess Microsoft the same way that they're supporting Docker better and everything like that.
Yep.
They want more people to use their stuff, and so they make it easier to do all this kind of thing. So yes, maybe it'll be better in the future.
It's interesting to consider that along with recent developments in the game industry, where Valve is releasing a PC device that's handheld, basically, but the problem is that it doesn't use Windows natively. And for a long, long time, that was a really big problem because Windows had such a monopoly on gaming APIs. But they developed a compatibility layer called Proton, which basically translates DirectX into Vulkan, I guess. And as a result, it basically does a pretty good job of effectively emulating Windows while running Linux in such a way that it doesn't actually cause a huge performance drop.
Cool. Well, there's way to be made.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that all this is coming up. Is anyone else curious about trying to set up Android Studio to work with a physical device? I guess not. But if anyone was, I was willing to share my screen and show my progress. Interesting. I have it. What was that?
Yeah, if you could show that, it would be great.
Sure. Yeah, I'll try it out. So, Bennett says something. Yeah, iOS is a interesting situation because you literally can't publish iOS apps unless it's on the App Store, right? So you can develop things, but you can't really distribute them unless it's in the system, in the walled garden, so to speak. So it seems like it would be a little less fun to play around with because you wouldn't have as much freedom, but yeah, indeed. But anyways, for me to screen share, it looks like you'll have to stop screen sharing, Whitlock.
Stop share. There we go. Make sure there's no permissions.
So I'm just following along this tutorial here. And I found the directory where the SDK is stored. This is, I got through all these different steps, and now I'm here. So just to give a demonstration for anyone who tries this on their own, I did get to this directory and ran ADB devices, and something's showing up. So this is unauthorized, but I have to assume because it shows up, it actually works. I wonder, target the device. Let's see if this has anything. Unknown command H. Okay, well, whatever. I don't know. ADB command E. Interesting. So there's ADB -- help. Okay, that's a little something. Wow, that's a lot of options. Yeah, I'm just gonna follow this and see if I can do it a little bit more simply. So I've connected it, and it does show it. Oh, okay, check that Android Studio can connect to the Android emulator. Let's try that. So getting AVD. You don't already have one. Using your ADB. It looks like this step is basically just like making sure that the emulator works. Doesn't seem related to actually getting it to work on a real device.
Sorry, I was talking on it. So can you try entering ADB-D?
Sure.
-H.
It's funny, it says that's a way to connect, to target it. It's to issue any ADB command, but let's see, ADB dash, or actually ADB devices, ADB D, serial number, ADB dash help. I guess it would be D and then serial number. Try this out. There's nothing else connected to my computer that could possibly. This. Unknown command. Okay. S, then serial number. So maybe.
And we had to pass the command as well.
Okay. Let's see if I can clear. No, I can't clear. Dash E. Allow version code downgrade. What? No, that can't be it. File transfer, networking, global options, D, use USB device. Error if multiple are connected. I used ADB-D, ADB help. It says command, so it's probably because I didn't have command afterwards, which is a kind of weird way to do it, but apparently not. Maybe I have to have a command of which I have no idea.
You need to provide some. Yeah, you need to provide some command. There's a shell command as well.
Yeah, ADB devices. emulator 555 install. Install an app. That's APK. So yeah, it's probably about the fact that we don't have the ADB command figured out. So I'm just gonna go back and see there's information on, because I know based on devices that we have this. It says it's unauthorized, but I'm guessing that it actually will work. I think I don't know why it's like that, but whatever. Anyways, we know that this works. Create it if it doesn't work. Run the emulator, blah, blah. Do one of the following. Check the USB cable. Okay. If there's issues, it looks like. Yeah. So wireless debugging. I'm going to see another guide. Yeah. Let's see. Allow mock location. Oh, that's for GPS probably. Okay, this seems a little bit more relevant, this whole talking about Android Studio. So click on SDK Manager. I think is this. I'm not sure. Google USB driver. Ah, here we go. So it looks like we need to install this little thing here, the SDK Manager. And I suppose I'll just apply that. That's done. Close it. It says after that connect. I wonder. I guess I can just disconnect it and then reconnect it. We can check. It says unauthorized, but maybe it's because I have ADB stuff going on. Yeah, interesting. I'm gonna see if this will work without me reconnecting it. Select manage. Right click on it and select browse my computer for driver software. Okay. Seems not super duper simple. Funny that it showed up. It didn't have any of these steps earlier, but whatever. I don't figure I need to share this stuff. It feels like updating the driver or changing it probably be a bad idea because this device actually has a driver that already works. So it's kind of tricky to mess with that. So I'm probably not going to. We'll see if there's another way around though.
Yeah, that would be super helpful. I mean, even when we develop our apps, I think we could just load it into an Android device and check it from there.
Yep. There's another more detailed thing here. Windows machine needs a software called driver to communicate with your phone. Install the appropriate driver. I mean, this seems like stuff that I've already figured out. So what's interesting is available devices. Because I don't want to like change the driver, so we'll see. In any case, apparently the mob programming people will be reconvening pretty soon. So at least that covers some of the stuff that you may not have seen without a little searching of your own first.
I think I probably need to search a lot more in terms of developing the UI, mocking up the pages, right? So it is. I mean, we already have the code for all of our operations from previous projects. We just need to find out a nice way of representing the home page and navigation for different pages.
Right.
And I have developed a few local websites on my own, but those are much easier because you have a lot of real estate to work on. But developing a mobile app needs a crisp design.
It's kind of funny. I hadn't noticed, but apparently everyone who wasn't already in a breakout room is now gone. So it's just us for now. Kind of funny.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
They
Anyways,
got bored of us talking.
yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna see if there's a way. I guess I'll restart Android Studio and see if it shows up.
Okay, all right. I think I'm gonna take off. I don't know if there is gonna be anything discussed after this.
All right. Well, good luck on trying to figure out the real device configuration.
Yeah, that's yeah. There is a lot to learn for Android, I think.
Yep.
All right. See you.
See ya.
Stick that for someone in a breakout room. And we're back. We'll reconvene in a couple of minutes, like 8:20 or something. We'll finish off the evening.
So I think I just solved the issue with pairing with a real device.
Yeah, nice.
What the problem was I hadn't actually looked at my device since plugging it in, and it had a thing saying, do you want to enable USB debugging? So I just clicked on that, and now it actually shows up in the list of devices. And it actually says it's running right now, interestingly. So I wonder what happened. I'm pressing the play button to see what happens. And so far, the builder is running.
Yeah.
I wonder, it looks like it's not doing anything though, because the bar isn't moving, but it would be pretty cool if I could actually get it.
Well, can you open the little build tab and just give me an indication of what it's trying to do?
Let's see. Says, are you talking about the event log?
No, there's the build tab in Android Studio.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you can
well,
see
it
this.
says, actually, no, it says launch succeeded. So...
Yeah, it just did it. It just did it.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Exists on there now.
Nice.
And it obviously, does nothing. But an interesting shift you might notice is that because I use a dark theme,
Yeah.
it actually shifted. So it looks totally different. But I wonder, I think the pink, does the pink match? I forget. Was it pink? No, it was more like purple.
Yeah.
So just like shifts everything. I don't know. But I'm not too worried about dark mode and light mode looking different.
No,
just kind of nice.
That won't be a consideration.
Even though it's literally just a one button thing that just goes back and forth. It's kind of cool. And
this is how it starts.
Yeah. And I wonder how debugging and all that might work, but for now at least,
the answer is
just
quite
nice
well.
to be able to have. Yeah, it's nice to be able to just actually use the device for one thing, because using a touch interface with a mouse is kind of weird. It's not perfect. In any case, so it's a little unfortunate that the guy who was here working with me on this literally left like 20 seconds before I figured it out. We were like, oh, well, I can't figure it out. See ya. This will probably be in the recording, right?
Yep,
so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, basically it is working fine. So it'll be interesting to use that. I'll probably, just for convenience sake and because it's kind of cool, use that as the main thing that I develop for. And then, of course, obviously, you want to make sure it works on the virtual device.
Yeah,
so
and the emulator.
I'm going to make sure it works on the virtual device, kind of similar to the way that I make sure that the Linux server runs the command line stuff.
Right. Yep.
All right.
Exactly. It's that's a good deal. Well, everybody is coming back now from the breakout rooms.
I just have a quick question. Is pretty much everything else about mob programming?
Tonight, yeah. We're just going to do the debrief like we did last time. So then.
Okay.
Yep.
In that case, I'll probably leave now
off.
since, I've already done a lot of stuff. And yeah, thanks for providing the opportunity for everyone who wasn't doing a mob thing to work together, although it was mostly me monologuing.
Well, hey, but I wanted to make sure that, yes, people had a chance to get started, and, hey, the recording's out there. I'll try to find some chapter marks, stuff like that, in case anybody, wants to see all the cool stuff that you did.
Too bad about the Haxum thing, too, but whatever.
People will figure it out.
Yeah, anyways, I'll leave now.
Andrew.
Hopefully get some work done on Project 4.
There you go.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay.
We just came back from the mob, but is class over?
It's not. Nope. No, Andrew's signing off, though. No, that's all right, though. Because now I wanted to hear about your experience with mob programming. So I was here helping people get some Android questions answered and things like that. But what I'd like to do now is have each room talk about what their experience was, and actually with this application and everything, and how your experiences mobbing differed from your experience pair programming. So room 1, who was Hannah and Jaeger and Lee and Ming and Sam, what did you think? Tell me about your experiences mob programming.
For this one, a lot of us still had some trouble setting up because the last time most of our other partners set up. So once we got that up, we noticed that this one was kind of much larger question. So we spent more time kind of just discussing and brainstorming what we wanted to do and just kind of understanding the requirements a little better before getting started. It was a little different from before where, or at least for me, we would just jump into programming right away. So we had more of a discussion. Part of it was just kind of waiting for everything to get set up, but we noticed that, yeah, we spent more time talking about the question. Do you guys want to add on that?
Yeah, and another thing I'd like to add on to that is that this was my first time using Code with Me. And until now, I didn't realize that if I had the community edition of IntelliJ, I was limited to one free 30-minute session before I had to upgrade my license. That kind of complicated things a little bit because we were expecting, you know, the group members to switch every now and then. Like one of us is a driver and the rest are navigators. What ended up happening was that I had to share my screen so that the rest of the group could be the navigators and I could keep coding while I keep receiving advice.
Sure. Yeah, good point. They want you that academic license to use Code with Me. This makes sense. Cool. Okay. Hannah or Sam, anything you want to contribute to the conversation?
Yeah, I would say. Oh, I'm sorry, Hannah.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I'd say nothing more to add because I think they summed it up pretty well. We definitely struggled to get it all working, but it was really nice. Again, like seeing how other people went after like how to solve the Pac-Man, because I was just at first I looked at it and I was just like, I have no idea, but then like people were talking and it really helped.
Cool.
Yeah, I was just gonna agree. We definitely spent more time just talking about the logistics, which is great because I do sometimes have a habit of just jumping in without thinking through the logistics as much. And it's great to know that other people have sort of the same questions as you about the assignment. We were having some confusion as to like, does Petman have to be where a dot was? You know, like what are the wall? You know, we couldn't quite suss out all the details just from the instructions. So it was helpful to have someone to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, and adding on to that, one of the questions we came up with was how big does the map have to be? Like, it wasn't clear from the Kata requirements how big it had to be, so we kind of settled on an 8x8 for now.
Cool. Nice. Excellent. Okay. Sounds like you had some good discussions there. Let's move on to room 5, who was Ahmed, Dimitri, Jared, Matthew, Sam, and Travis. So, what were your experiences mob programming? What did you learn? What was it like? How was it different from pair programming?
So the
we
other groups
ran into a couple of the same problems with the Code with Me running out of time. We also spent a lot of time trying to figure out what our game plan was. I missed the last mob programming session, but I don't know if it was as complicated as making this Pac-Man game.
I think it was.
I feel like we could have spent more time on planning out what exactly we were doing. But it was fun. I had fun.
Yeah, I think it was it was pretty good to hear the conversation, especially earlier on when we were planning it out and how we started to do it. Because I mean, I didn't initially think about making a class just for like each piece of the board and then extending it from there. But I think it was Sam that ended up suggesting and starting with that. And I don't know. Yeah, it was cool to see the different approaches.
Yeah, maybe it was a bit overboard making all the abstract classes, but we were trying to make like a 2D grid of entities, and then entity was a class that the other stuff extended from. So we had like Ghost and Pac-Man and Wall and Pellet all extend from it. So we went through, and then like and Pac-Man would move and then get whatever entity was in the tile he wanted to move to, and then he would handle whether it was like a Wall or a Pellet or a Ghost or something. But we spent probably more than half the time just trying to figure out what a good way to, to like represent all the stuff was. So like each entity had like a character that we were ultimately going to show on the screen. we're trying to keep it kind of modular, I think. And then we did the code together thing, which worked okay. Everyone kind of went on their own class, and we got a decent amount done. But of course, we didn't get anything that actually built. We ran out of time. But
oh, so that's interesting. So like with the code with me, that allowed you to sort of code in parallel on different parts of it.
Yeah, I can show
Okay.
briefly. I don't know if I'm allowed.
Yeah,
to
sure.
show my
Yeah,
screen.
I think I've enabled it. Yeah.
All right, sweet. So yeah, we had this was our entity class that was going to be an abstract class, but we didn't know what to make abstract. So for now, we just had it like this, but it had the position, X and Y, and then like a character that it would show to the screen. So like, for instance, the ghost had like an O as the character. And then we had some methods here. Here was like our Pac-Man ways started on that would change the character of Pac-Man would change depending on what direction he was in, and like the method that would change direction would change the character too. And then we ran out of time. Yeah, close to here, I was trying to get input, but we have like a tick that would happen every second. And in that, it would move the ghosts, and it was supposed to move Pac-Man and all that stuff. So that's about as far as we got, but it's we got pretty far. We got 5, 6, 7 classes all sort of done ish. Started, I meant, not done. Yeah.
Nice.
Definitely could have used more time for this project, but
maybe.
But it
like
was a cool experiment for sure, and just to see like how other people approach problems and what have you. And the dynamic was kind of, I would say Sam was like coding and driving for the most part, and then everyone else would pipe in from time to time.
Sorry. I know I was talking too much. Sorry, I can't stop myself.
No, dude.
Excellent. Okay, cool. It's interesting to hear about your experiences. Okay, and finally, room 6, Harsha, Catherine, and Margarita.
We just they use code with me as well to code the Pac-Man, and at first we thought it would be easier as playing Pac-Man, but it's not. So yeah, we're just trying to brainstorm on how do we do this using entity component system, or we can just extending classes. We just search for resources online in Geeks for Geeks and a lot of other websites, and yeah, it is not even done 10%, but yeah.
And so, like, what did you learn about the experience? And so, like, how is it different from programming on your own, programming with just one other person?
Yeah, I just learned that sometimes I've been stuck on something. Let's say in this experiment, I was like, so we have to make a board. So what kind of board do we have to make? Is it like a square board, or is it a rectangular board? And then someone in my team suggested me that it doesn't matter. We can just write anything, to create anything, any kind of board. So it just saved a lot of time. So yeah, that is one experience for me.
Others in room 6. What was your experience?
I actually, the assignment referred to Game of Life, which I actually had to do for another course, and I don't know why, but I could not, for the life of me, remember how I did Game of Life like 2 years ago. So I had to kind of, I spent a long time just rereading the assignment, trying to figure out how to get started. So we just made, I think we started with like a 5x5 with the walls containing the value 1, and the inside containing the value 0, but we haven't implemented like how that would work with like the user like keystrokes. So that was like probably the next part we were gonna get to, but we couldn't. And also we lost a person in the beginning. We had 4 people, and then it went down to 3. So it was a lot of just like talking to each other while we were coding at the same time.
Okay. Excellent. Well, Yeah, thank you all for sharing what you did, for participating in the mob program tonight. Please go do the quiz, and capture in words what your experiences were mob programming. This is this is meant to be something that you experience as part of this class. It sounds like everybody got a little bit of something out of it, and maybe something that you'll be able to do in other classes, or maybe you'll find after PSU you're in an environment where you'll be using these kinds of techniques, where having lots of people swarm around a problem and share what they know, so that things can move fast and quickly. Okay, well, that's all the content for tonight. And so then, while you all were pairing, we talked a little bit about Android. A couple people had problems getting their environments set up. So if you have if you're into an issue with Android Studio, check out the recording. It's I'll put it up on YouTube tomorrow morning. And then we'll come back next week for the last regular class, and I'll walk you through doing some Android things. Please explore it on your own this week, but then we'll be doing some more coding next week, so you can just see learn more about Android development. So I know I have a lot of slacks to catch up on, and so I'll be online for a little while longer. If anybody wants to stay and ask me some questions afterwards, I will. I'll stay online for a couple more minutes. But then everybody else, that's it for class. So see you next week. Have a good one. Stay safe. Bye now.
Cool. Thank you.